Dear students, Assalamu alaikum. This is Voice of Dr. Muhammad Iqbal. I am your course instructor in Standard Setting and Assessment, MPhil Education, Semester number 2. Dear students, this will be my lecture number 24. I will cover in this lecture subparts of units number 6, 6.3 and 6.4. These includes 6.3 necessary conditions for alternate assessment systems. Number 4, limitations of alternate assessment. 6.4. Dear students, first of all, the learning outcomes of this session. After completion of these subunits, students will be able to define the necessary conditions for alternate assessment. Number 2, limitations of alternate assessment. Now, I will come towards the topics. Necessary conditions. There are several conditions that must be done before establishing performance standards for alternate assessment. First of all, it is necessary to establish a mechanism that how scores should be assigned in reasonable way to any portfolio or collection of evidence. I want to make clear that in alternate assessment methods, standards are set for the children of severe special disabilities. So for this purpose, the test takers used sample of students' work evidence like portfolios, journals, and performances and others. For making standard settings or for establishing or assigning reasonable way or reasonable cut scores to portfolios or collection of or collected evidence. This can be done through creation of a blueprint or matrix. This blueprint or matrix will describe essential elements that must be included in every portfolio or work sample. Dear student, this is a summary of figure 15.1. Collection of evidence. In this table, first of all, Summary of collection of evidence. The portfolio will be made in 4 columns. Number 1, table of content. Number 2, administrative support documents. Number 3, individualized education plan, IEP at a glance, and parent validation. This type of evidence will be collected. Table of content includes English language arts and other subjects, mathematics, science, history and social sciences, etc. Number 2, 4 to 6 types of evidence primary and secondary students. In English language arts, in mathematics also, 4 to 6 types of evidence primary and secondary, and science 4 to 6 type of evidence of primary and secondary, and history and social sciences 4 to 6 types of evidence for primary and secondary. Introduction to the reviewer, next step and schedule and resume for high school students. So this was the type of evidence which will be collected from in the alternate methods of standard setting. And this is a blueprint of for collection of evidence in all type of The next condition or next step is to establish scoring guides, sample of scoring guides for collection of evidence. This is being presented in this table on the right column. In the right column, there are dimensions, and in other 3 columns, the score points and descriptions from lowest number 1, medium number 2, highest number 3. Then link to outcomes. No outcomes, lowest. These are labels and these are descriptions of the labels from lowest, medium to high. So link to outcomes, lowest scoring guide will be no outcomes appropriate to the content. Medium evidence will be some outcomes are appropriate to the content, and the highest number 3, enough outcomes are appropriate to the content. Then class performance, little for lowest, little or no evidence of student performance. For medium scoring guide, some evidence are there, and for highest scoring guide, considerable evidence are there. this will be the highest scoring guide for collection of evidence. And then number 3, social interaction, limited social interactions for lowest. Number 1, limited social interaction in the classroom. Then some social interaction in the classroom for medium scoring guide, and for the highest scoring guide there will be the evidence of variety of social interactions. Dear students, I will present this all standard setting on alternate assessment. The detail of this table is on the book I have given to you as a text on the page number 21. The detailed table is being presented. Scoring dimension, linkage to standards, settings to standards, lowest evidence, no outcomes appropriate to the content area are listed, but neither the targeted IEP goals or individualized evidence performance. Goals are the tasks related to the content standards, and for medium evidence, outcomes appropriate to the content area are listed, and with either targeted IEP goals or tasks related to the content standards, and for the highest scoring evidence, the outcomes appropriate to the content area are listed and targeted. And for performance, there is for performance the lowest scoring guide for which label is number 1. There is little or no evidence of students' performance of tasks related to the targeted IEP goals. So there are for number 2, medium scoring guide. So there is some evidence of students' performance of task related targeted IEP goals. This is IEP stands for individualized evaluation performance goals. So there is considerable for highest scoring guide number 3. There is considerable evidence of students' performance of task related targeted individualized evaluation performance goals. So dear students, setting of this scoring guide, student performance tasks primarily for number 1 are lowest scoring guide. Students performs tasks primarily one classroom with limited social interaction. For medium, number 2, students performance tasks in a limited variety of settings with opportunity for some interaction with peers. Number 3, highest scoring guide. Students perform tasks in a variety of settings and engage in social interaction with a diverse range of peers. So dear students, there will be the next step, context of the students are scoring guide. For lowest performance, number 1, student performs tasks that are not meaningful or uses interaction materials that are non-age appropriate. Number 2, medium scoring guide. Students uses age appropriate materials to perform some meaningful tasks that lead to real world application. And for highest scoring in context, there will be the students uses age appropriate materials to perform meaningful tasks in real world context. So it means in this highest scoring guide, it will be in full swing or in complete sense. And the last point of this table, independence. Limited or no use for lowest guide number 1. Limited or no use of appropriate sports as specified in collection of evidence documentation. For medium scoring guide, some use of appropriate sports as specified in collection of evidence documentation. And for highest scoring guide, consistent use of appropriate supports as specified in collection of evidence documentation. Dear students, this was the sample scoring guide for collection of evidence in figure 15.2. Dear students, this was all about the conditions of alternate assessments methods. Now I will come towards the limitation of alternate assessment methods. The last part of this unit 6.4, unit of 6. So these are some limitations of alternate assessment. Number 1, the problem of there is a limitation of this alternate assessment methods. So the problem of combining alternate assessment results with those of other assessments. A standing question has been, how does one combine the data, including the proportion of students classified from an alternate assessment as proficient with classifications of proficient resulting from a regular assessment in any way that makes logical sense and seems psychologically sound. It means it will not make logically or psychologically a sound sense. The next limitation is for policy point of view. That is mixing of regular and alternate assessment results regular and alternate assessment results may be defensible in light of purpose of No Child Left Behind Act. Under that legislation, the issue is how many students meet a particular proficiency goal. If 800 out of 1000 students in regular assessment program met the goal of proficient and 12 out of 20 met the goal of proficient on the alternate assessment, the combined percentage is 820 out of 1020, or just under 80%, exactly 80% in regular assessment group and 60% in the alternate assessment groups. It means the issue of this that the number of students are the data of students in regular assessment standard setting assessment methods in thousands or in bulk, and in data in the special children, special disabilities children is very low. So there is no proportion of data, and it is difficult to combine the different percentages of different streams into one. So this is a big limitation of this method. Further, there may be differences of perspective on the issues of aggregation by different methods. So different methods also a problem to aggregate into a single one method. So other limitations of standard setting for alternate assessment are more clear cut. For example, as nearly all current alternate assessment programs are configured, they are limited primarily by the nature of the materials available for review. It means they are only the test takers make decisions on the basis of portfolios or work samples of special children, not the bulk data of standardized test setting methods like examining centers or the other methods. So it is a big review, it is a big issue. So the nature of alternate assessment is such standard setting will almost certainly be based on personal collections of evidence gathered in individualized ways rather than on standardized combinations of multiple choice or constructed response items gathered. Dear student, the last but not least limitations of alternate assessment is issue of generalizability of results or findings. So the test takers or assessment and the experts in alternate assessment methods feel difficulty to make generalization findings because of working on individually collected evidence or work performance evidence or samples of specially disabled students. So dear students, this was all about my lecture number 24, in which I have presented about the conditions of alternate assessment methods and then limitations of alternate assessment methods, because these are totally compromising methods and these are accommodating the special disabled children along with the mainstream regular assessment setting programs. So there are issues of generalizability, there are issues of combining of data, there is a issue of different types of work patterns of standard setting methods. So I will discuss with you in some other unit in my next lecture. Thank you for your precious time, and Allah Hafiz.